Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to God Is Not Mad at Me. I'm your host, Adam Greer. I'm so glad you're here. Don't forget, if you're enjoying my content, I have comments, suggestions, things like that. At the end of the show will be all my contact information, and I do welcome participation in a bigger conversation. So let me know what you think. You can go to my YouTube channel and engage there as well, and I look forward to talking with you. I want to thank Elboro Coffee Company for helping to make this show possible. They are a family-owned and operated business located in the foothills of California, using high-quality beans to produce smooth and unique and delicious blends like Cascading Hills, a delicious, flavorful dark roast that still holds the complexity of the coffee. Savor the fullness of this coffee and experience the taste that is truly unforgettable. Take a long, slow sip and enjoy your view of God's country. And of course, our show favorite, Jesus Juice. Don't settle for anything but the best cup of joe. Kickstart your day with Elboro Coffee Company. When ordering, don't forget to use my show code, NOTMAD, to receive special show pricing. So grab your cup of coffee, get comfy, and I'll see you in just a moment. Good stuff. Got me some Jesus juice in there. Today we are going to continue our series, Letters from Prison. We're going to be looking at Philippians today. The title is Joy in Adversity. The most significant point in the book of Philippians is that theme: joy, contentment in all circumstances. Paul, despite being imprisoned, emphasizes finding joy in the Lord and maintaining a positive attitude regardless of external circumstances. That's how he writes his letters from prison. He's in prison, and it's always a challenge in his life. Since he converted, since he had his experience with the Messiah, it is just a constant battle, and he continues to press on, hold on, and press on. Paul's message encourages believers to maintain joy and peace through faith in Christ. But more than that, it's regardless of our circumstances, he's highlighting the strength and resilience that comes from a relationship with God through Christ. That is what holds Paul to the fire, if you will. He understood this relationship. This was not just, I'm a Christian, so I must do these things. He engaged and walked in relationship with God. I'm going to read from Philippians 4:4-7 from the Mirror Bible. Joy is not a luxury option. Joy is your constant. Your union in the Lord is your permanent source of delight. So I might as well say it again. Rejoice in the Lord always. This kind of joy empowers you to show perfect courtesy towards all people. The Lord is not nearer to some than he is to others. Let no anxiety about anything distract you. Rather, translate moments into powerful worship and soak your requests in gratitude before God. And in this place of worship and gratitude, you will witness how the peace of God within you echoes the awareness of your oneness in Christ Jesus, beyond the reach of any thought that could possibly unsettle you. Just like the sentry guard secures a city, watching out in advance for the signs of any possible threat, your deepest feelings and tranquility of thoughts are fully guarded there. Paul wrote this letter to the believers in Philippi. And what's important to understand is he wrote this for their encouragement. He didn't write this letter to kind of wallow, maybe vent a little bit. He is writing to the Philippians to encourage them in their journey from prison. He ain't worried about himself. He is always worried about the bigger picture and the believers walking in the fullness of who they are. So he writes to them for their encouragement, and he thanks them for the money they had been giving, for his support while he's in prison. And when you get a chance, you really need to read the whole book of Philippians. Read it as if it's for the first time. I would suggest getting a Bible. Maybe you have one that has no study notes in it and no markings yet. You haven't highlighted all your favorite verses. If you can't do that, just get online and just open one up. But just to read it for the first time. If you have the Mirror Bible, beautiful Beautiful, beautiful version. You'll be inspired and encouraged, and you'll see how Paul, in spite of all things, never gave in to it. He knew something was bigger than himself. But for now, I'm going to share just a few highlights. I'm going to share just a couple pieces, a couple scriptures throughout the book. First, I'm going to share is Philippians 1, 13 through 14 from the Mirror Bible. The prison has become my pulpit. All the soldiers in the governor's guard and everyone involved in the palace have learnt about my message. They know that I am not their prisoner, but that I am enclosed in Christ. They know that I'm not their prisoner. He's in prison. He isn't technically their prisoner. So they know that I'm not their prisoner. My imprisonment has also persuaded many believers in the Lord to speak the word with fearless courage. Chapter 1, 17 through 18. Others again are completely love-inspired and in full support with me in my defense of the gospel. I am thrilled. Christ is the topic of conversation everywhere. 121. Christ defines my life. Death cannot threaten or diminish that. 3:18. As you know, I am often moved to tears about these things. I am so passionate about the revelation of mankind's redeemed innocence that it makes no sense to me that there can still be people who oppose the message. Paul's saying, this doesn't make any sense. It's mind-blowing to him, this message of grace, the mystery of the church revealed. And he's even more blown away that no one else sees it. He's like, why are people still arguing? Because the message is so incredible. His life is so settled and fulfilled. He's like, why are you resisting? Why are you still fighting it? Paul's passion for the gospel drove him to address the urgent issue of false teachers and distortions of the message of Christ. This is important to understand. Throughout his epistles, he's not ever complaining about his situation. He's always bragging on the bigger picture. But he's also adamant about dealing with false teachers, dealing with those who are showing up into the midst of the body and trying to disturb them and trying to distract from the truth. Throughout his epistles, he expresses deep concern for the integrity of the gospel and the implications of false teachings, the implication that false teaching have on the faith of the community. When you think about this. I've watched people come into the fuller revelation of grace and the gospel message, the completed work, and they'll spend years there, and they're just excited and testifying and going strong. And then for whatever reason, they kind of pull away. Maybe they leave that fellowship they were part of, hearing it every day, every week, in and out, and they get back into a kind of a mixed message fellowship or completely the other way, and talk to them a year after that, and they're just beat up. Their faith is gone. They're feeling burdened again. They're feeling God is mad at them again. All these different things. These false teachings, they're just not a matter of a fine whatever, that guy's talking nonsense. You hear that enough, and it will make impact. And so Paul fights for truth, and he fights that the messengers speak truth. And when someone comes into the midst that is not teaching the truth, the full integrity of the gospel, Paul's like, deal with that and get them out. Don't flirt with them. Don't mess with them. So here's a few examples of that passion, of why, just showing that he means it. Don't flirt with the message of a works gospel. Don't flirt with that message that says God is not 100% for you and with you. Galatians 1, 6 through 9, probably one of the biggest passages about this. It says, I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting him who called you in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel. Not that there is another one, but there are some who trouble you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed, be exiled, be gone. As we have said before, and so say now again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. That's what he means. That's loaded. Don't mess with it. Don't flirt with it. In this passage, Paul expresses the astonishment how easily Galatians are turning. He's He's astonished. He's blown away that you find freedom and you're filled with joy and you're just, woo, you're dancing in the bliss. And then you're back bound up in chains. He's astonished how easily you can taste life and then return to death. He emphasizes that even if an angel, think what he's saying there. That's not arrogance. He's just saying the truth is the truth is the truth. And I've preached to you the truth. And if an angel or myself or anyone on my team, anyone who's underneath my tutelage preaches something different than what you've heard, let the angel. There is no better message. There's no truer message than what I've presented to you. That's what Paul's saying. This is not arrogance. He knew that he knew that he knew. This highlights his strong desire to protect the integrity of the message they had received. 2 Corinthians 11, 13, 15. For such men, it's talking about these teachers coming in, polluting. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. Paul warns the Corinthians that false apostles who disguise themselves these servants of righteousness. They present themselves maybe even with passion. Maybe they come off so legitimate. They seem so believable. They are not there for the purpose of the gospel. I think that Paul is even alluding to the fact that they know what they're doing. That's why they disguise themselves and then present themselves as servants of righteousness. You can't just be confused. If you're just confused and didn't know the full revelation yet and you were talking, Paul would come alongside you or one of his disciples and just help educate you and bring you into clarity. And that's what Paul would say. When someone comes into your midst and they don't teach the truth, help them understand it. He's saying these guys are showing up on purpose, disguised. So they have intention to distort the truth. Paul warns the Corinthians of those false apostles. He underlines the danger that these false teachers pose, emphasizing their deceptive nature, which can lead believers away from the truth. They come in on purpose for the only purpose of destroying the work of the gospel, the truth of Jesus Christ. 1 Timothy 1, 3 through 7. As I urged you when I was in Macedonia, remain at Ephesus, so that you may charge certain persons not to teach any different doctrine. Certain persons, by swerving from these, have wandered away into vain discussion, desiring to be teachers of the law without understanding. In his letter to Timothy, Paul instructs him to remain in Ephesus, to command certain individuals not to preach these false doctrines. Paul's saying, basically, you're a guard, Timothy. When you're there and you're in the midst and you hear it, go after it. Guard the truth, guard the flock, shepherd them well. That's what he's saying to them. He emphasizes the need of sound teaching that aligns with the gospel, showing his commitment to ensuring that the church remains anchored in the truth. Again, this is not arrogance. This is not about protect my work, protect my empire that I've built. It's about the kingdom. It's about Messiah. It's about truth, the gospel, the grace, the message of grace. Titus 1, 9 through 11. He must hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught, so that he might be able to give instruction in sound doctrine and also to rebuke those who contradict it. For there are many who are insubordinate, empty talkers and deceivers, especially those of the circumcision party. They must be silenced. Who's the circumcision party? Religion. Period. Those in religion, those who are bound up under law, those who pervert the message with works, let them be silenced. If you're hearing that kind of message, bounce. Get out of that environment. If you can stop the message, then do it. Titus 2, 1. But as for you, teach what accords with sound doctrine. So think of what Paul's saying. They must be silenced, and you must teach what is sound. You must teach the truth. Paul warns Titus about many religious people and deceivers, especially among the circumcision group, among religion, who must be silenced. And in their being silenced, he says, protect the group. Silence them and then quickly counter the message, basically. Whatever they've said, stop them, stop, and then address it to those who are listening at that moment. Make sure you plug the hole that may have just been created. Don't let them walk in that. His call to actively confront false teachings underscores his relentless pursuit of doctrinal purity. This is why he's in jail. That's why he's in prison. That's why he's always in trouble. He was relentless about this. Each of these examples reflects Paul's intense passion and his urgency, aiming to protect the message of Christ and encourage believers to remain steadfast in the faith. His writings serve both as a warning and a call to discernment for those committed to the gospel. To discernment. In other words, pay attention, listen to what's being said, and if it isn't truth, you better discern it. And how do you know if it isn't truth? It's not take a Bible verse and say, well, verse 5:7 says this. It's know the truth. This is great. Bank tellers, I don't know if you ever studied this. If you notice, bank tellers aren't taking that magic pen and going through your $100 bill to see if it is clear like they do at the grocery stores. Bank tellers, they know, touch, feel. They know the truth. They don't got to go look it up in a book. Oh, well, how do I tell if what he just said is truth? It registers. They know it. They've learned it, and immediately they can confront a false bill. Well, that's what he's basically telling Timothy. You know the truth. If it doesn't register in your heart, if something goes, well, that's not right, then that's your sign. It's fake. That's the pin across the counterfeit. For Paul, sound doctrine is that which is theologically correct. And you might be saying, well, duh. Well, I hope that you're saying that, but I hope you also understand that. Theologically correct, there's a lot. You go down to any bookstore and go into the theology section, and there's a lot of things presenting themselves as good theology. So it's not just study theology. It's got to be theologically correct. The word theology simply is the study of God. The study of God, not a book, not a seminar, not a seminary, not a podcast, all these. That's not theology. It's you studying God for yourself, learning how God interacts with you and with those around you, and in being a vessel for him to use into other people's lives. So we need to understand what theology Paul passed to Timothy, and really to anyone underneath his lineage, including even us today. So the following three facts are the core of Paul's doctrine, his theology, if you will. Justification by faith. Paul's writings emphasize that salvation is a gift from God upon each of us, bestowed upon each of us, rather than earned through human effort. There's nothing you can do. It's a gift. Already got your name on the tag. It's in your possession. Open it up and live in it. This fact is the foundation of his letters, particularly in Romans and in Galatians, where he where he articulates the idea of justification, which is being declared righteous, not earned righteousness. Justification is you're declared righteous, not through adherence to the law again, but through faith of Jesus. And understand that it's not faith in Jesus. I know there's a lot of teachings on that, and there's a lot of that's the majority of evangelical 101 Western theology. But when you read Ephesians, that faith in Jesus, it's really the faith of Jesus. It is God and Jesus had a plan, and Jesus walked it out, fulfilled it. His belief in what Papa was doing, his belief in what the family of heaven had decided, he fulfilled all the obligations. So it's the faith of Christ that allows God to bestow upon us this gift of salvation. Grace, point 2 for Paul. Grace is the central theme for Paul. We know that. Encapsulating the essence of his message about salvation and reconciliation. He asserts that it is through God's grace that we are saved. Saved is simply, because people ask saved from what? And it's a good question to ask. What are we saved from? And because we see it as, you're in trouble but I saved you. And we get kind of a wrong idea of what salvation is, because salvation does have this element of rescued, yes, but it's rescued and restored and healed, rescued from our false belief, rescued from our distorted lifestyle because of that false belief, and then healed, made whole. Underscoring that no amount of works or adherence to laws can achieve this. This is again a gift. You have been called good. You have not even been called good. You are good in God's eyes. He's bestowed this righteousness upon us. We are good in His sight. Grace is not merely a concept. It actively reconciles all things to Him. Grace is not just about me and you. It's the whole thing. Actively reconciling all things to Him, restoring this estranged relationship between humanity and God. This estranged relationship, this confused place where man believed he was separated. God says, you're not. I'm going to prove it to you. That's what grace is. It restores this estranged relationship. Paul emphasizes that salvation is wholly God's idea. God isn't up there, frantic because, oh man went crazy. This is not the plan I had. God knew all along what was going on and already had the idea of salvation. He already knew how He was going to bestow upon us this gift of reconciliation, this gift of righteousness. Restoring, God knew He was going to do it. It's His idea. That grace also, He understands, is transformative. Restoring, empowering, and renewing the lives of those who walk in belief. So, is belief necessary for this salvation? No. Because it's Jesus' faith that allows it. But walking it out, letting it transform us, yes, believe it, grab a hold of it, trust in it, and it will renew your life. By emphasizing our dependence upon God's unearned favor, Paul encourages believers to view their entire journey of faith through the lens of grace. That's how Paul lived. Everything he did from the moment he woke up to the moment he went to sleep, and I'm sure in his dreams, was viewed through the lens of grace. The whole journey of his life after that moment on the Damascus Road. Doing so fosters humility. When lens of grace is employed, it fosters humility as individuals recognize their salvation, that their salvation is not earned but given. It brings about ongoing transformation, and it's not due to your own effort. That's that humility part. It's solely God's initiative. To understand grace at this depth cultivates a spirit of gratitude. Paul was extremely thankful, always understanding that God was bigger than the situation, and he was thankful for God's goodness in his life. And it encourages love towards others, especially those within the community of faith. That's why the Philippians were helping Paul. The community of faith had come alongside him. When you walk in that community, you express love to one another, you care for one another, you're aware of one another, encouraging one another. Paul's deep awareness of God's love and mercy inspired him and should inspire us to live a life characterized by selflessness, generosity, and a deep concern for the well-being of others. The person and work of Christ is Paul's final point. Paul's Christology is vital to his theology. He believed Jesus to be the Son of God, fully divine, fully human, whose death and resurrection are central to salvation. Christ's life, death, and resurrection reconciled all men to God and offers new life. Paul's dedication to this truth, this gospel message, didn't afford him a life of luxury or ease. That's obvious. We can read that through all of his writings. Quite the contrary, it brought about significant trials and tribulations and hardships. Yet despite these external circumstances, Paul's true inner peace and confidence in the gospel allowed him to be at peace in all circumstances, and joy was his constant. He walked in peace, and joy flowed from him. Constant. For Paul, the source of joy was not tied to his life situation, whether facing imprisonment or facing threats, but rather rooted in the relationship with Christ, his personal relationship, and the assurance of his salvation. His confidence in the gospel was the anchor for his soul, providing strength and resilience. Ultimately, Paul's life exemplifies the true joy and peace that they come not from external circumstances. It's not from having a bigger boat and a bigger house and 3 cars and money, and it's not. None of that matters. None of that produces true, real inner peace and joy. But it comes from a deep-seated trust in God. Now let this be your conclusive reasoning. Consider that which is true about everyone is as evidenced in Christ. Live overwhelmed by God's opinion of you. Acquaint yourself with the revelation of righteousness. Realize God's likeness in you. Make it your business to declare man's redeemed innocence. Think friendship. Discover how famous everyone is in the light of the gospel. Mankind is God's limelight. Ponder how elevated you are in Christ. Study stories that celebrate life. Paul says, fix your attention on the goodness of God in everything. Every person you see, every situation you encounter, look for the goodness of God. See it. That does take effort, certainly at the beginning. We've all heard the expression, fake it till you make it. But eventually, you will just grow. I look back to when my grace awakening started. I had a lot of prejudices, a lot of things I believed about people, certain situations, and it would look down. Didn't mean to. I just see it now that I did. I could say, I talked last week about, I love you, but I had that stuff. And then I began to purposely see differently. And it took time. I would catch myself going, that wasn't a right view, Adam. But now I see it without trying. See the goodness of God in all things. I see God in everything from, babies to toddlers to adults. You just see God within his creation. That's what Paul is saying. Look for it. It's there. Look for it. Well, we're at that point again. I'm out of time. I hope that something said today has opened your perspective and challenged you on your walk. And I hope something that you can take with you for the rest of this week and on into the rest of your life, honestly. I hope it whetted your appetite to read Philippians and read the letters from prison from Paul. Just understand Paul's motive and you will see why he walked content and filled with joy. All right. I'll see you again next week. Cheers.